Hello and welcome back. We should continue with our important mission to discuss what is happening in the world. Last Thursday, Chinese astronauts captured the above image of the flat Earth. Apparently, the rocket engineers on the Shenzhou Ziv mission forgot to attach a fisheye lens to the camera. Yes, the straight edge of the Earth confirms there is no curvature from 248 miles above the Earth. Why would China's manned space agency release a photo of the flat Earth? Perhaps we give the Luciferian elite who run this fallen world far more credit than they deserve. Also, keep in mind the Lord will always tip their hand. Amos 3:7 Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants the prophets. Truth be told, so-called astronauts have never landed on the moon. The best and brightest can only ascend to a maximum low Earth orbit. High Earth orbit is unobtainable because it is on the other side of the impenetrable sea firmament dome. We live in an enclosed system. And until death, we're not going anywhere. 22,236 miles is the fictitious distance a geosynchronous satellite orbits the fictitious planet Earth. Such an attitude would submerge all satellites in the vast ocean positioned above the sea firmament dome. Images refer to this layer of the atmosphere as the thermosphere, where temperatures reach 4,000 degrees. Yet somehow 25,000 satellites and 370,000 pieces of space junk haven't melted or crashed while orbiting the Earth ball at 22,000 miles per hour. Our childlike faith in astrophysics is breathtaking. Even the origin of the word satellite is steeped in the annals of a prolific science fiction writer who had his fictional word co-opted by the space program. Satellites only circumvent the first heaven of the third dimension below the sea firmament dome. Everything is to scale. Satellites are positioned in low Earth orbit below the sea firmament dome. By their own admission, the International Space Station conducts all of its missions in a low Earth orbit. Numbers, the orbital speed necessary to maintain a stable low flat Earth circuit is 4.8 miles per second. Relatively slow when compared to the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. 38,193 times faster than the IS. Astrophysicists postulate that the moon doesn't rotate because the gravitational pull of the Earth paralyzes it into a fixed stationary position. Truth be told, the moon is a hollow, flat, translucent, crystalline, self-illuminating disk. One that generates a unique type of cold light. During a full moon cycle, the luminaries can be seen shining through the moon's disk, confirming its translucent composition. Genesis chapter 1 verse 16, For God made two great lights, the sun and the moon, to shine down upon the earth. The Book of Enoch, chapter 60, How the portals of the winds are reckoned, each according to the power of the wind and the power of the lights of the moon. On Earth, the temperature of radiating moonlight is always colder than its adjacent moon shadow. If moonlight was the result of sun rays reflecting off the Earth, then the illuminated moonlight reflecting back onto the Earth should be warmer. Moonlight is colder, proving it projects its own light. The Book of Enoch, chapter 77, verses 4 to 5, In the orb of the sun there is a seventh portion of light, which is added to it from the moon. By measure it is put in until a seventh portion of the light of the sun is departed. They enter into the western gate, circuit by the north, and through the eastern gate go forth over the face of heaven. When the moon rises, it appears in heaven, and the half of the seventh portion of the light is all which is in it. In essence, the sun transfers or puts in 1/7 of its light into the moon, where it is stored, illuminated and eventually extinguished upon completion of its phase cycle. The moon does not reflect the sun's light from its exterior surface, rather it projects moonlight from its translucent interior. Repeating the cycle again and again, ad infinitum. The Book of Enoch chapter 77 verses 12 to 13, Uriel likewise showed me another regulation, when light is poured into the moon, how it is poured into it from the sun. All the time that the moon is in progress with its light, it is poured into it in the presence of the sun, until its light is in 14 days completed in heaven. The Book of Enoch chapter 78 verses 10, And Uriel showed me another law, when light is transferred to the moon, and on which side it is transferred to her by the sun. One more thought to contemplate, if the geosynchronous moon is responsible for the tides, why doesn't it affect the Great Lakes? Because they're not directly connected to the flat Earth oceans, therefore unaffected by the rising and falling of the floating flat Earth. Earth which is set upon the bosom of the great deep below. The variation in tidal height is attributable in part to the different configurations of adjoining lands. Diamagnetism is the force that repels a magnetic field. For example, the ocean's salt water is repelled by a magnet. On my flat Earth, the sun and moon act as a battery. The sun has a positive charge, and the moon has a negative charge. In essence, the sun repels the salt water at low tide, and the moon attracts the salt water at high tide. These opposing forces cause the tides and constant movement of the oceans. The ball Earth theory believes the moon's gravity overpowers and controls 70% of the Earth's surface. All the while the Earth's gravity holds the moon in a stationary position. Now that's faith. The sun and moon rotate clockwise below the sea firmament dome as the moon alternates evenly below and above the sun. During the day the blue sky is visible through the dark part of the waxing or waning moon. Since the 15th century, there have been 50 eclipses featuring the sun and moon above the horizon. Impossible if the ball Earth casts its shadow on the moon. With an equatorial circumference of 6,783 miles, the sun and moon are the same sizes. It's the reason they look the same size during an eclipse. Your eyes are not deceiving you. The Book of Enoch chapter 77 verse 3. These are the two great luminaries. Their circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and the size of the circumference of both is alike. The debate surrounding the shape of the Earth could be easily resolved by flying over the South Pole. The Luciferian elite has brainwashed the masses into believing astronauts went to the moon 6 times, yet there isn't a single video of any jet or rocket flying over the Earth's South Pole and popping up on the other side. Why? Because there isn't the South Pole. And it's illegal. All flights over the fictional South Pole were banned in 1958. Known as the Nation-State Treaty, it's the only geopolitical agreement the nations of the flat Earth have honored for over 6 decades. The truth always hides in plain sight. For example, the International Maritime Organization, the World Meteorological Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and the air map of the world all display a flat Earth flag. Adding a layer of Masonic intrigue, the UN Flat Earth flag is divided into 33 Freemasonic sections. Although the South Pole doesn't exist, the continent of Antarctica does have a distinct interior frozen border wall over 200 feet in height, a 360-degree circumference extending 60,000 miles, containing all of flat Earth's oceans. Magnetic North Pole is at the center of the flat Earth. Not surprisingly, the Arctic region is much warmer than Antarctica. The highest recorded temperature in Antarctica is 9 degrees below zero. If the Earth were a ball with a somewhat identical North and the South Pole, their climates should also be similar. Summer temperatures in the Arctic can reach into the 80s. While at the same Antarctic latitude the temperature stays below zero all year. The North Pole is a magnetically charged, toroidal vortex ring generated by a closed rotating curve, which is responsible in part for tidal fluctuations. The massive hole produces a vacuum and the toroidal vortex ring that extends from the surface into the hollow Earth. Yes, the flat Earth is also hollow in various sections. The heliocentric theory postulates a round Earth ball rotating through a cold indifferent universe without reason, purpose, or hope. The Ancient of Days' oldest book points to the truth. The geocentric theory is not a theory. Job chapter 38 verses 4-7. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you know so much. Do you know how its dimensions were determined, and who did the surveying? What supports its foundations, and who laid its cornerstone as the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy?